Got the chainsaw working today, cutting in some deer bedding. See, I got a mess behind me. It was a good day today. Great day to run a saw, working on a swamp island, kind of where the island meets kind of a lowland slash marsh. So, had the saw out, trying to make it better to help this property hold more deer. I'll show you what I'm up to. Alright, so right over there we got an access trail working in. You can see there's a tower stand right there. Actually, let me head out this way. There was a dandy of a buck that was shot out of that tower, cutting right through the old shooting lane. Right over here this year. Let's see, we got this tower stand over there. And here's a little corridor that I cut in, working right out into this opening from the bedding slash travel corridor that I got working all the way around this swamp edge. So a big part of this cutting was just leaving nice open trails, because these are the areas that deer naturally want to traverse. They love working these edges. So I left an open edge there, left the trail cutting up right through here. Alright, so we got the aspen regen that's going to be popping right here. It's going to be screening off our box stand. And as I pan this direction, this is the point where I think we're going to get some really nice bedding. And as I was cutting today, you can see we had a handful of bur oaks, and right over here I got a red oak, a couple of red oaks. I was opening these up as I was cutting, so doing some general TSI work as I was also adding in some deer bedding. Alright, so this is a point off this island where it kind of meets this lowland slash marsh area. Now that area is loaded with great native shrubs, so already going to be some strong bedding out there. But this is an area that just the terrain feature of being a point off an island, it just screams deer bedding. So we wanted to cut this in and make this a spot that a deer might want to hang out. You can see here's when I'm trying to make these little canopied beds, this is what I want to do. I want a spot where I can clear out the duff. I got a deer trail already cutting out that way. Nice look out that way. Great escape there. And then right behind me, big old backstop. These were all kind of those medium to small ash, so those actually hinge really well. But yeah, I was able to stack a handful of these types of beds along this transition, so should be a very strong bedding locale. You can see here, I got spots. I was trying to tip them up onto the shrubs so I could kind of make these little canopied beds. There's a good potential bedroom right there. Potential bedroom back in here. I did my best to kind of lay them up on the shrubs so they'd stay propped up. I wanted to give them something different. They got plenty of side cover, screening cover with all the shrubs that are on this property. So I'm trying to diversify their bedding options by doing some of these hinge cuts and giving them potential spots to lay down that are going to look a little different. Now here again, hinge tree, nice little bedding nook. This one with a great view, and looking out over the island. And as I was making these beds, I made sure I had lots of jump offs. I mean, I want tons and tons of escapes so that they never feel boxed in on this point. And if deer are bedding out in the marsh and they want to transition through this island, they have the freedom to do that. We did find, I think I found 5 or 6 buckthorn shrubs. This is the only seed tree. So made sure to mark that because I want the landowner to get after this buckthorn this summer. I don't think we saw it on our initial walk, but the initial walk was after leaf out. And this is just, I saw 6 shrubs kind of right in this little point. So I marked them so we can come back July 1st and kill those buggers, because this property has some of the most beautiful native shrubs I've ever seen. It's loaded with red osier dogwood, loaded with gray dogwood. I can't even remember what else. I think we saw a lot of nannyberry. But tons of great natives. So now that I've added sunlight to this point, and I did find these 5 or 6 buckthorn shrubs, again, just the one seed tree. There's another one right there. We got to kill it, because if we don't get at it, it'll take a few years, but they'll, with all the sunlight we got coming through right here, that buckthorn's going to take over. So that will be priority number 1 when July 1st hits. That landowner to come back through here and just knock out the few shrubs I found. Alright, so right here is just kind of that transition trail between Oak Island and Marsh. So the trees up on the island were oaks, and as it kind of slid downhill, it turned into mostly these green ash trees, which is pretty typical because they can handle the wet. You can see I got a few oaks that I opened up kind of right on the transition, but mostly ash. But I made a very obvious trail cutting right through here, and again, still stacked beds kind of right along this trail, because we want to use this terrain feature that deer like. We know they'll use this for bedding if they feel secure here. So I have plenty of cuts where I cut them nice and low, but then periodically made these little canopied beds right along this transition trail. You can see, boom, there's another one up ahead, boom. You have some spots just like this, just off the transition, where I kind of took my trail through. You can see I cut a trail in there, kind of worked my way right through here. So this was pretty thick hazel brush. I wanted to make this accessible too, so just kind of blazed a quick trail. And again, working along the transition, another bedding nook right over there. Tons of escapes. You can see obvious escape heading out that direction. Now here is where the transition is going to kind of meet a little seclusion food plot that they're going to have in there. So I made a nice jump trail kind of right there, one right up in there. That seclusion plot will be planted in some clovers and chicory to because there is going to be quite a bit of shade there. So we wanted a blend that's going to be able to tolerate shade. But that'll be just kind of a nice little spot to get them to stop, give the hunter a chance for a shot. Alright, so here's would be kind of the easterly side of the island. Transition into more aspen. I did leave a few still standing, but I dropped enough that we'll get some aspen regen popping through here to help with, I mean, we already got good shrubby cover right in the deer's face. That aspen regen is real attractive to the deer. And again, my focus was to keep open spots like this with lots of escapes for the deer to be able to bed. Now they can jump right over that log, trail cutting out that way. Nice big open trail cutting out that way. You can see the red oak right there. Love red oaks because they keep their leaves late. I could definitely see a bedding nook setting up right underneath that tree. Alright, working our way right around the point here. See, lots of space. I mean, I anticipate bedding right on these points. Had a hinge tree right there, made a bed underneath that one. But they love these points. So I'm sure we'll get some bedding there. And again, opened up a nice little bur oak right there. I should note too, see if I can find a tree. I left some trees like this. That's a little aspen tree for rubbing trees. There's a nice one right over there. That will definitely get shredded. And if there were branches growing, I'd take and I'd trim along the side there, get them out of the way and encourage rubbing, because I want to set up a buck travel corridor around this edge, at least a buck trail where they're going to be scent checking does during the rut. So left some nice trees like that to kind of incentivize them for to do some rubbing, leave some sign. And then the trail kicks out right over here. Now their plan is to plant this berm they kind of created, or the spoil area they created when they dug in this pond. One thing that's lacking on this cover, on this property, is really strong thermal cover. Now we get some thermal cover because they do bed down in the shrubby stuff in the winter, so that can have a nice thermal component to it. But I'd love to see some conifers out here, so we're thinking this will probably get there'll be some black spruce out here. But they have access to big equipment, so dug in some ponds on this property, which will play really well with that stand right up there, because water is one thing that bucks will hit before food during the rut. They're running hard, so these little isolated ponds can be money during that time of year, and we brought the travel corridor right into it. One thing I will note, like, this landowners bought this property 2 years ago. That first year, they did not, they saw hardly any deer. But it's crazy once they get to work how fast things can change, because it was completely different year 2. Because year 1 they just, I think, basically just blazed in a few trails. That was about it, all that they really had time for. But year 2 they got at it and added food plots. They did a lot more trails, shooting lanes. Yeah, this winter they put in a bunch of ponds. It's crazy how fast this one turned around, and yeah, I shot a Danny buck out here. So you put that sweat equity into your property, I mean, you can change it for the better.